seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kenny.
You have 60 seconds to comply. This is minute 17.
Part man,
Part machine,
or pod.
This minute begins with Bobby flying into the windshield of the cop car and ends with Murphy and Lewis entering the steel mill.
Yeah, we're getting close.
Oh, things are going to go down. It is frustrating when you're doing a Moves by Minute podcast and you know the good shit is so close. Yeah. But you got to get through the stages to get there first.
It's like the roller coaster. You've got that slow incline so you can get to the top, and then the thrill ride as you plummet to your death.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be all peaks, no troughs. You know, that's how Michael Bay makes movies. And then somehow, you know, you're 3 hours into a movie and there's all these amazing explosions and you're just lying there on the couch like, I just don't care. It is meaningless. Yeah. Everything is meaningless. Film as a medium is meaningless.
I was going to say Zack Snyder, but that's more of like a constant numbing drone.
Yeah, that's more the opposite problem. It leaves you
burrows into your skull.
Yeah. But...
Oh, I do have a bit of news.
This is Media Break. You give us 3 minutes, and we'll give you the world.
It's about Dick's TV series?
No. According to Variety, MGM... the current owners of the RoboCop franchise and a little thing called James Bond, the movie franchise, apparently are looking to sell.
Yes.
So this is from a few days ago, about a week ago from when we're recording, so this is long gone by the time you guys are hearing this. It sounds like, you know, this last year's not been good, and because there's no time to die, it keeps getting delayed, and it's currently set to release on April 2nd.
Oh my god.
They haven't really had a big hit in a while, apparently, so like, you know, it's quite interesting. If someone else picks up the rights to MGM, we probably could see some more action going on with the what's his name, the District 9 guy, Neil Blomkamp's RoboCop sequel, or maybe the Dick Jones TV show, or maybe they'll just get shelved inevitably because Disney's going to buy the MGM back catalogue and do nothing with it.
They're just adding to the infinity gauntlet of movie studios.
Yes. That's just the joke that people keep saying, but yeah.
It's true, you know, it's not even satire, it's just reality.
I don't know.
Fine, I'll do it myself!
Because I was looking at this RoboCop page and it's just like, that was like one of the first things that came out. I was like, oh shit. And of course you get the people going, we should kickstart together and buy the franchise. And I'm going, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, first I would like Tron Uprising Season 2. RoboCop, you know, we've got an amazing movie. You just leave it at that. It's fine. Yeah, but yeah, it would be nice if from now on we just get more Alien, more RoboCop. We get to explore weirder, more unusual alleys. I kind of want television to be like comic books, where comic books just, they throw anything at the wall, they give anything a go, and just see what sticks. And though you do have to sift through a lot of crap, I think there is something fun about it. It's like fan fiction, well, properly written fan fiction. The fan fiction that has the peaks and troughs of action, rather than just, how do I say that nicely? Money shot. There we go. Yes, money shot.
So I'll just say, as long as it's not fan fiction written by Stephen Moffat. Ouch.
That's not even, the problem isn't even all money shot with that. Like, it's just self-indulgent and rambling. It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, pretty much. Before we start criticizing too much of the industry and how horrible it is for existing and new franchises, RoboCop.
This steel mill is a freaking dope location. It isn't specifically cyberpunk in the way that we think of it now, but it's just that industrial...
Yeah, it fits so well into the industrial dystopia that this movie is trying to convey, that this is not a good future.
Yeah.
You bring up cyberpunk, I think that's an interesting argument, is, you know, how cyberpunk is this? Because cyberpunk, people think of as an aesthetic more than as a genre, you know?
Yeah.
It's all robots and neon and, the 80s distilled to a certain degree, but cyberpunk, the genre, is more about capitalism and dealing like with issues like humanity versus the robot is essentially it's analogous to corporate taking over the body,
Yeah, I think RoboCop, in terms of its themes, is very cyberpunk. I mean, it's one of the quintessential cyberpunk stories, but it's not really until RoboCop 2 that the aesthetics go along with it. Oh, what was the oh god, someone made a pun of like, if cyberpunk doesn't have those themes of
I sent you the Twitter screen cap of that.
It was brilliant. It was so brutal. It was just
If someone takes the aesthetics of cyberpunk but not the core concept, is it technically neon-liberalism?
Yeah.
That's not the exact quote. I'll put it in the show notes or something. I don't know. I'll find the Twitter and link it, but it is brilliant. Before we get to the steel mill, we've still got a little chase scene to go through, and you'll never believe that a man can fly.
Yeah.
Or in this case, Bobby, the apparent rapist, according to the novelization. And he lands with a sickening thud on the windscreen of, well, Murphy and Lewis's car, and I like how, he just bounces to the ground and they don't give a fuck.
No, they got better things to do, and I'm pretty sure he did.
If he wasn't dead from landing on the car and bouncing off, he was probably dead for the fact that nobody came to try and get him.
Yeah, and Murphy pushed him off. Off the boot. Of the hood, actually.
There is a thing in this, like, especially like dystopian kind of cop future, it's always the fact of, like, it's the cops killing without any sort of remorse or, authorized is not the right word, but in reality, or you would imagine a cop killing a person would have a ramification. That doesn't really happen here. Even though Murphy doesn't really kill that many people, even as RoboCop early on, he disarms a lot of people, but he does shoot people, especially in the dick.
Yeah, that's why you gotta do it, man.
Yeah, but he's not a murderer. He doesn't even kill the Bodica gang until literally the end, where he's really doesn't have much choice in the matter. Damn, it's weird to think about how bloodless this movie is while it being insanely gory.
Yeah, like Murphy himself isn't the perpetrator of that violence. He tends to be the recipient.
Yeah.
Which makes him more of the protagonist, more sympathetic, and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's interesting, when you tell a story, you don't think about these things in a conscious way. I don't think anyone working on RoboCop was like, oh yeah, so the violence in this film will be mostly done towards the hero and all that sort of stuff. But it's just this subconscious thing where you go, oh, well, that feels right. And then someone doing a movies by minute will break it down and go, okay, so these are all the ingredients to make a story work. But it's happened with my own writing where people go, oh, I saw the symmetry here between these two scenes, or this, that, and the other. Oh, yeah, I did too, didn't I? I didn't even consciously, but I pretend. Oh, I meant that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. That was exactly how I intended it to be.
I'm a genius, guys. So the steel mill scenes were filmed at Wheeling Pittsburgh Steel Mill in Monessen, Pennsylvania? No, it's the other one.
Pennsylvania. Yeah, it's Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Pretty much the same.
I keep going to say it's Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. No, either. It works.
Yeah. Even the things I've been reading, it's like, those two are just interchangeable to a certain degree. I know there's that one person from Pennsylvania that might be listening to this, or Philadelphia probably is just screaming at us, but we're ignorant Australians.
Yeah, our country is like 6 states and nothing in most of them.
There's like most of the America between most of our states, like we're not that compressed.
So the mill has since been demolished, of course, but Google Earth has actually archived satellite images of it from 1993. Didn't even know they had satellite images going back that far.
Oh yeah, there's satellite's been around for a little while. It's just that a lot of that stuff was, US spying on other people.
True. It's just, it makes me feel so old, I'm nearly 30, and that's a long time ago. I don't know if I mentioned on the podcast, but I mentioned to you off air that I'm doing an Instagram project where I'm going to relive the 1980s through...
I don't need to go through that again.
So it's an anthropological exercise of, well, I didn't live through this time, but can I absorb the culture and get a realistic sense of what it was like to live through that time through popular culture.
I do think, in many respects, the 80s is quite possibly one of the, I won't say interesting times in recent memory, but like it's probably one of the most well documented of eras, at least, not necessarily a specific event, but of eras.
Culturally, it's one of the most significant of the 20th century.
Yeah.
It's really the 60s and the 80s were these modernist rather than postmodernist eras. They were referencing nothing else. They were their own thing. They were not nostalgic as other eras could be. Although, you know, you can argue there are bits of nostalgia in the 1980s. You know, they love the 50s.
Oh, the people who are more nostalgic for a different era are the people who are nostalgic for the 1950s, which are basically the conservatives who want to take us back there.
Yep.
And there's your political commentary, folks.
Yep. But it's very fascinating that since the advent of the camera, we're able to capture these moments in time forever, you know? Just even watching this minute over and over again, just going, yeah, this lives on in perpetuity forever. It's as if it happened yesterday.
The 80s were also essentially the birth of hypercapitalism. It was definitely the birth of things like we're still feeling today, like trickle-down economics, deregulation in some cases, other cases where it's like the governments were taking more control of things.
It is a real shame that trickle-up fashion didn't really take off. I can't remember who was heading it. Maybe Vivienne Westwood, but back in the 90s...
I thought it was McElroy. Or Macklemore.
Macklemore, yeah. My brother and me, they were in charge.
No, the op shop singer rapper. Macklemore, that's it.
So
that's the trickle up one.
I mean, technically, yeah, that's exactly
rich people buying poor people clothes.
Exactly, that's what it was. And I think if I recall correctly, it was Vivienne Westwood, and they would basically look at what streetwear was, and looked at what was in op shops at that time, and then trickle up, put that on runways again, which was just so culturally fascinating because you just had this mishmash of different eras in the past 30 years all just smashed together in fashion. And on the runways now, I don't even know if there's a collective theme. It kind of looks futuristic, I think.
I have no idea. I think we've already firmly established on this podcast I have zero fashion sense.
I'm the fashion expert here, yes.
You're the fashionista. Well, it's funny you mentioned that about like trickle up and stuff like that. I know a concept I've never really thought about, but yeah, that's totally true. What usually happens, especially regarding capitalism, is they will take a nonconformist attitude or a style or something like that and capitalize on it. It's like conservatism couldn't change punk, but capitalism could make punk into a very lucrative business.
Yeah.
And that's where you see a lot of counterculture get ruined, is through hypercapitalism.
Oh yeah, because you've got your Hot Topic goths, whereas a friend of mine, she just turned 60, I think, and she was one of the first wave of goths. So they would all go to op shops and dye things black and paint things black and all of that, and it was all mixed in with romanticism and poetry and philosophy and all of that. There was a whole different mindset there. And then you've got my generation that knew none of that. You know, I was growing up during the emo scene, and we were all the Hot Topic kids listening to 30 Seconds to Mars, My Chemical Romance. Like it was kids bop, but with wrist slashing, I guess, you know. And tiger print hair. How did they do that?
Oh God, I do not ever want to find out.
But yeah, I think that is something we don't see in RoboCop, but it is very much of the same attitude of, you know, we take something that is unique and we're going to turn it into this corporate entity.
I would argue that probably the most aesthetically punk-looking person in this movie is probably Emil. He has that fucking weird, like, sideburn to goatee, like, cuts. You know, his hair's cut short. He had clothes a bit more, rock or anything like that. Even though 1997 was almost like the height of punk in regards to mainstream. I mean, punk had been around for since the 70s, and it really hadn't developed a mainstream aesthetic until mid 80s. From recollection, I'm sure somebody can correct me on this. But yeah, it's funny that, again, I'm talking about something called cyberpunk, and we don't get many punks.
Bodica wears what we would now consider tech wear, which is sort of cyberpunk. I mean, it is essentially.
I would say he's got more of a geek chic going there than
Oh, I mean, you can do geek
anything
chic
else.
and tech wear at the same time, which basically just means that
Yeah.
it's practical stuff. It is
utilitarian.
Utilitarian,
Yeah.
yeah. And you see, so to give you more examples, I guess I'd say Death Stranding is a really good example of that. Just look up the urban ninja aesthetic. That's basically what it is, and this is pure cyberpunk at its core, I think, is that we are spending more money on practical clothes. It's not about glamorous stuff so much as stuff that will last and that is durable, and so that's the rise of techwear. And I guess I'm drawn to it because it is almost anti-capitalist in a way. Yeah,
I'd say, going back to the whole cyberpunk neoliberalism thing, is the problem with society nowadays is, realistically speaking, there's not much you can do that's not anti-capitalist to some degree, because techwear is hyper-capitalist. It's going to be...
It's very expensive.
These are the things the tech bros wear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elon Musk wears something, everyone starts wearing something. That kind of bullshit.
Yeah, unless you're willing to go op shopping and then the next fashion designer will come along and like your look and then steal it. Just, yeah. I bet maybe somewhere out there is a style, a subculture that no one knows about because it's just off the grid. There's no social media about it. No one's taking selfies in their whatever subculture outfits. It's just...
Hobos?
Well, you see them around. That's definitely...
No, I'm sure hobo chic is a thing.
That's, definitely a thing, yeah.
Well, for me, it used to be geek culture. Used to fill that void pretty well for a few years there. You would never want to be caught dead wearing a Superman t-shirt in public. Trust me on that. But I always thought geek culture might be safe from that kind of trappings because it was already technically hyper-capitalist in and of itself, because it's essentially branding yourself with a corporate logo. You're not a rebel for wearing a Batman t-shirt.
It is so funny to me that people have this brand loyalty for comic book characters or whatever it is, and not realize that this is it's a corporate entity. Like when the whole issue with the rights for Spider-Man was between Sony and Disney and whatever, the way people picked sides, as if it was so ignorant. It was just, these are billion-dollar corporations that would eat you alive.
I still cop shit for pointing that stuff out to people. Yeah, nobody's winning here except the corporations because they're still going to make $1 billion the next Spider-Man. It just depends on who's getting the bigger share of the cookie.
To quote the ever correct, the ever accurate Alien vs. Predator, whoever wins, we lose.
It's so true.
It's like, I want DC to win. No, I want Marvel. They will all destroy the planet. They will melt the polar ice caps. They will destroy the economy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
The great thing about that is you don't even need to watch the movie. You got the poster. That's it. That's all you need. Don't watch the movie because that's all you need.
The poster was smarter than Alien vs. Predator.
The movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So when are you going to do AVP by minutes?
That is the April Fool's special for the next year.
Getting a little bit back to my point, though, when it comes to geek culture, it wasn't until basically, a few things happened, like the MCU started becoming a thing, and very specifically, as much as I loathe to admit it, it brought it into the mainstream, Big Bang Theory. I can't fucking stand Big Bang Theory.
No one likes it.
But not acknowledging what it did for geek culture, good or bad, it did something for geek culture.
It did normalize it, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Being a geek used to be a thing you hid.
I never knew that time. Was never a thing.
I'm kind of glad that you never did, because that's the thing as well. I think this is why I don't like the butthurt fanboys who are like, in my day you used to be ridiculed and now everyone likes it. It's like, yes, how cool is that? Something we love is being loved by everyone. Shut the hell up.
Doing...
I'll get off the soapbox now.
Yeah. Doing movies by minute, it it's definitely got me close to a community that really understands the importance of storytelling and how influential it can be. And, this isn't just something to kill time. I know that the normies out there, they don't invest in stories the same way we do.
Yeah.
It really is just, oh, this is fun, this is going to kill some time, whatever. Whereas for me and a lot of people in this community, be it the geek community or the Movies by Minute community, it's a means of how we connect with the world and we articulate ourselves and we explore issues in our own lives through fiction.
And it's something like a project like this, it has to be done with something we're passionate about. Not necessarily about the movie. I mean, yeah, of course, you kind of have to have some kind of passion to talk about a movie for 90-odd minute freaking weeks in a row.
Yeah, shout out to the Mandy Minute. The guy doing that is just hate watching Mandy, the Nicolas Cage movie. So, yeah.
You still got to have a passion either way.
Yes, yeah.
Like, even as a hate fucker of watching, that's still a passion. If you don't go into a project like this with, like, at least some kind of emotional connection, you're not going to connect with anyone. You're not going to connect with the material, and you're definitely not going to be insightful at the very least.
I think that's just the most wonderful thing about storytelling is, and I've put out some of my own writing, and just to have people read what I've written and for them to really profoundly connect with it, like, I thought I was the only one, or this is exactly how I feel about something. It's just, wow. You would never be able to achieve that through just a conversation, I don't think.
Well, it depends on the conversation in regards to the conversationalist, the setting and stuff like that. I've had some great deep talks, and I've always preferred that than, I'm just going to go out and get drunk. And I think that's why I like this idea of, like, let's just sit down and just burrow through the nitty-gritty of a thing.
Yeah.
And we're spending so much time talking about the genre and not the movie, but I don't care. I find this shit fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully people listening do get something out of just the wider cultural landscape and the emotional stuff and all of that. It all comes together in the end. But my last note for this minute is that, so they've called for backup. They call for backup again.
Yep.
It's not coming, so Murphy turns to Lewis and he says it's her call as to whether or not they enter the building without backup. And I never noticed that before.
I have that exact note as well.
And she says, without missing a beat, let's do it. And I have to wonder, after everything that goes down, does she feel any guilt about this? Does she think about, oh shit, I'm the one who said let's go in?
We don't get that in the movie. Let's just flat out admit it. The only time we actually really see Lewis as a point of view character is Lewis witnessing the execution of Murphy. That's really the only time.
And then when she realizes that RoboCop is Murphy, I think that's about it.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that we really don't get that much with Lewis. It would be lovely to see it. And yeah, before you're asking, of course, the novelization has nothing like that in it.
I would have loved if Lewis was the point of view character for the entire film. I don't think we really do have a point of view character in this film. So, I mean, sort of we shift between perspectives. Whereas, some movies like, oh, well, this is Harry Potter's story or whatever. It's Luke Skywalker's story.
I mean, if anything, our point of view character is Murphy in RoboCop in and of itself. We're not external to a lot of things that don't happen that aren't at least tangentially related.
Yeah, I mean, we literally see through his eyes as he's being built.
Yeah, and it's I'm at a loss to words for that, because it's I can't think of anyone else that's really the point of view character, at least for the predominant majority of this film.
I wonder if there is a way to just add a few lines here and there to give more insight into Lewis's thinking about things, because I know, the focus, the pacing, I should say, first of all, of this film is perfection. And the focus really isn't on the emotional side of things, but I kind of wish it was, and I kind of wish at least there were hints of that.
I do think one of the smartest things this movie did was it truncated the birth of RoboCop down significantly, This is one of my things when it comes to the remake, is why one of the things I loathed about it.
Do you hate the origin story as much as I do?
I hate all the unnecessarily padding. I don't want to give it too much away because I want to just rip into gaslighting when we get to it. Not specific this minute.
Yeah, I mean we're close. We're pretty close.
But like the rebuild of RoboCop is supposed to be about 3 months. So when we next see Lewis, it has been months. Murphy's family have moved away. Life has continued on. We don't see how Lewis has dealt with the loss, but at the same time, let's be realistic, she knew Murphy for less than a day.
I mean, that's still watching someone brutally murdered.
Yeah, but it's not someone that, like, we talk about the instant connection between these two characters, and we feel it, and also we have seen this movie so much times. We're literally reviewing these things by the minutes and scrubbing back over, and we're seeing the nuance in these actors at the top of their game, really invested. But to be brutally honest, from a storytelling perspective, the first literal 20-odd minutes of this movie happened in a day.
Yeah.
When I point it out like that, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is, film by its very nature heightens everything, and especially when we're doing it movies by minute style, where you feel like, oh, these characters have been together forever. Like, no, it's been weeks for you doing the podcast, but it's a few hours for them. But yeah, I wonder about Lewis's psychology. What has she witnessed on the job? Is loss like this and death and violence on this level common?
I think that's why it's important that we do get the Frederick scene at the beginning as well, or at least the reactions to Fredrickson. I'll just edit that in every single time. I'm not. I think that's important to get a handle on that. Nobody's there is overly emotional at the death of their colleague. This has become so matter of fact. They're bummed. They're tired. They're exhausted from the constant grind of policing a city that clearly just wants to kill them because of OCP.
Yeah. It also explains why Lewis doesn't immediately recognize Murphy as RoboCop. We watching are like, oh, it's so obvious, but now you point it out, I hadn't thought of it. She saw him for a few hours one day, and then not for months, and then he comes back totally different. Yeah, I wouldn't.
You got to remember, it's the spinning gun that triggers Lewis. That was a very bad pun. I did not mean that.
Yep.
But it's kind of true. Like, seeing the spinning gun is the thing that gets the ball rolling. So, she got this partner for a day. What is Murphy's most memorable thing that we saw that he did in front of her? Spinning gun. I'm not sure she really put, her hand over the top of his head and go, I'm going to memorize, this bottom part of your face just because.
Yeah, you never know.
And even, RoboCop's voice is distorted as well. So, there's not just the acting as well, Yeah,
he talks in a totally different way.
Peter Weller playing it very flat. He's not talking like Murphy.
It is actually quite hard to do a RoboCop impression.
You kind of have to flatten your... I can't even do it. I want to practice, but I can't.
Yeah, I need to practice before I even had to go, but I have sort of read things out, while doing research for this thing, going, God, there's a very specific cadence. It goes down at the end of the words. It's very flat, but there's a staccato to it. It's not just I am doing a robot voice. There is something very specific to it.
Yeah, I guess even by this stage we've seen so many different portrayals of robots, mostly bad. I did double check. The Terminator was 1984, a very good year for movies.
Oh, yes.
This was released 3 years after the Terminator, and probably the only one I can think of in the entire 80s where okay, no. There is one other movie where the robot was the good guy, and that was Short Circuit. I stand corrected.
What, just Knight Rider also?
You look like crap.
Fuck you, kid!
Not really a robot.
I don't know.
Not really a robot.
AI, it's an AI. It's an artificial intelligence.
That's when we get into the semantics, because I know RoboCop is not a robot, he's technically a cyborg.
Exactly. So you've made your own point redundant, sir. But yeah, you are right that there aren't a lot of good robots. Even now, I think, we're sort of, to quote the RoboCop remake, robophobic.
sorry, just quickly going back to cinematic robot experiences, because before RoboCop, the only two I can think of are definitely like big screen evil presences is basically the Terminator and Ash. Is it Ash?
Yes.
From Alien.
Yes.
Because that was, what, 1980...
79.
The first name was 79. Jesus, yeah.
And then I always get confused about Aliens 83, 84, something like that.
I thought Aliens was later, because Bishop was also another good... Oh, God, another... Okay, so, yeah, okay.
I'm the Ridley Scott expert, so when it comes to James Cameron, I'm just like, nope, no idea. Sorry, can't help you. 1986. Wow, it was quite a long time before they did a sequel.
Yeah, it was in development hell for a while. There's not many starring good boy robot boys.
Yeah, other than Star Wars.
It's funny that we don't really get them in the... At least we don't get heroic action heroes. Yeah, that's redundant.
Yeah.
We don't get heroic action
Stars.
portrayals of robots in movies. Yeah.
Even now, like Vision, I guess is it? Vision. Yep.
Maybe. I am looking forward to WandaVision because that's going to be really interesting.
I'm so ready.
But Short Circuit, he wasn't a violent. That was actually quite the thing with Johnny Five was that he wasn't violent. Bishop was specifically non-violent. Yeah, RoboCop's the only one that's technically murderfies a lot of people. That's a good guy.
Oh yeah, specifically, hero robots what do violence. Yeah, it seems like maybe a hangover from Asimov that, a robot is either a good boy who never does any harm, or if they do any harm, well, that's just the beginning of the end. It's a slippery slope. They're a monster. Deactivate them now.
I think in the terms of the Asimov rules, that's not one... Those three aren't the prime directives that RoboCop abides by because he is a product by a corporation designed to essentially cleanse a city in the most brutal way possible by shooting a lot of people in the dick.
Yeah, ethics aren't really a concern in the RoboCop universe, and we'll get into that more in Gaslighting RoboCop, but we're not there yet. Why do I have more to say about the remake? It's worrying.
Well, okay, let's be brutally honest. There's not really that much going on in this minute. Bobby flies out of the car. They lose the van.
Yeah, well, as we said, the roller coaster is cranking up. We're going up the hill. We're going a little... Yeah, it's not quite there yet.
So, in the commentary, John Davison refers to Clarence Brodica as a Dr. Seuss name. And the only reason I wrote that down is because people always mispronounce Seuss. It's Suisse.
Huh.
That's just me being pedantic, and I'm sure I didn't even get that right.
Dr. Seuss or Dr. Zeus.
But they also point out the Willing, Pittsburgh, Steel, Monsanto works in Monsanto, Pennsylvania. I did have all that written down. Okay, so I've been finding very conflicting things about this. I see it's been shut down since 1984, 1985, 1986, even up to 1987 before production started on this.
Well, it depends how you describe it, how you define abandoned, because Freddy Krueger frequently tortures kids there, so technically.
But that's in the dream. That's in the dream world, not in the real world. So technically, it's still abandoned.
I swear, in one of those movies there was a steel mill, but I don't remember what. There's
probably
like
not all of them.
90 freaking movies.
Freddy's whole thing was a basement. It was boiler rooms and all sorts.
Yeah.
So yeah, the steel mill was abandoned, or at least part of it was. Where they shot was definitely abandoned. They did nothing to that setting. There was no dressing whatsoever. It really was that rundown and shit.
It just looks so cool.
All that graffiti was there.
I love it. It's just, it's like when I used to do photo shoots and just wandering around the city, and sometimes you'll just find a back alley that looks just so beautifully disheveled.
Yes. I haven't done that in so long.
I want to get back into that.
Yeah. I'll have to go grab a camera and start walking around.
Shoot me, man. I want you to shoot me.
I prefer shooting buildings and, urban decay more than people. People are just difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, a lot of the graffiti, they commented this on the commentary. Again, redundant. It was actually from the workers. They even included the fact of apparently one of the graffitis there is that remarking that these boilers and these furnaces had started up in 1897. This thing was going for almost 90 years, this one thing, and doing a little bit of research, it seemed to be a couple of factors which led to the decline. Some of it was they had to spend a lot of money redeveloping the site, especially because they had to abide by a whole lot of new regulations regarding air pollution. So they spent something like $500,000, or I can't remember if it was $500,000 or $500 million. Which in 1980 was a lot of money still.
Yeah.
And there was also a downturn in the steel economy. Verhoeven actually points this out as, I'm not sure how accurate it is, but he say that that's because the Brazilian steel, in quotes, got so cheap. So I do remember roughly about this time is also when the steelworks in England, was at Sheffield, also started to suffer. So yeah, it was like one of those things where, again, hyper-capitalism, we're going to go to the cheaper country.
Yep.
And not invest in locals.
Buy local, guys.
Speaking of pro-union, pro-local, I just wanted to have a shout-out because this was Pennsylvania, and one of my favourite podcasts is Well, There's Your Problem.
Oh, yes.
Which, to the people, live and love Pennsylvania. But I have to shout this out. This was one of the Twitter posts from one of the members post the election, where Pennsylvania flipped to the Democrats, and I quote, "This is the electoral communication from the Pennsylvania Secret Service. Bad things happen in Philadelphia, bitch. Keep our fucking name out of your mouth. Go Birds." And I'll try and tag them into this somehow, because I love their guys, and I would love to see the steel mill get put onto one of their episodes. I don't know how it would fit into a disaster. Maybe the disaster of an economy.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. It'll have to be like maybe a year from now when we finally get back to the steel mill in the movie.
Perfectly symmetrical film.
This isn't just the one and done of this thing. It has a tie to the beginning and the end of the movie, like the rise and fall of the Boudica gang to a certain degree.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a chiasmus.
I have no idea.
Perfectly symmetrical film, which I think... But when we get to the end, I've got an article there, and I'll definitely go into more depth. When we get to the end, it doesn't really...
Yeah. We've still got plenty of episodes to go.
Oh, yeah.
I redid the math. This is a 93... Because I think one of the previous episodes, I said this was a 73-minute episode. No, I was thinking about Kung Pao. This is a 93-minute movie, and the gaslighting is an extra 20 minutes on top of that. So
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I don't think we would continue to review... I think once the original RoboCop is done, we are just going to do a quick summary of the rest of Gaslighting RoboCop, because who cares?
No, yeah, I completely and utterly, totally agree on that. I do not want to, spend another 20 episodes talking about that movie.
Oof.
Alex, how do you feel? I feel fine, Dr. Norton.
So this bit begins with Liz Klein saying, "What do you want me to do?" and ends with Sellers saying, "We're gonna put a man inside a machine," which kind of sounds like a conversation in and of itself. That's basically what happened.
He's gonna make a man robot out of you.
Yes.
God damn it.
That works quite well. I like it.
So my line is, evil Bruce Wayne's expression at the beginning is me. Just... I must admit... There's one thing I can't hate about this movie. It's Michael Keaton. I can't hate him. I don't know. In this scene, though, he's making just really going over the top of, what if, having an idea here, guys, stand back. What if I made some kind of robo cop? What if I made Robot Cop 2?
Yeah, it's... just really hamming it up, like, oh, I'm just having this idea right now. No, man, you've been thinking about this for months at least.
I think you hit it on the head a few episodes ago, where it's like, this could be a thing where, what if Raymond Sellers' whole shtick was, I'm going to give them what they want, and I'm going to give it to them in the most fuck-uppitous way possible, so they will buy my shitty robots.
Yes, I would have loved that. It's sadistic, it's just, Yes, that would have been cool. So that's how we're rewriting this, I guess.
I think that's the fundamental problem of this movie, is that, realistically speaking, if you're going to criticize, essentially, Steve Jobs, Apple, and the consumerism culture surrounding that, you need to make this guy the focus of the film.
Yeah.
Like, you can still do a RoboCop, you just, but don't try and sell me on a Murphy that is kind of an asshole I don't care about.
Yeah,
I kind of like this guy.
Yeah, Murphy's been horrible so far.
Yeah.
And I love him in Altered Carbon, even though Kovac is also an asshole, but he's a lovable asshole.
Oh, this isn't a critique on Joel Kinnaman, even though I've only seen 2 of his things, and both of them he's playing Rick Flag. That was cruel.
He's been Rick Flag twice?
Yeah, this movie and in Suicide Squad.
Oh, I thought he was like, another...
Yeah, I know he's also come back for the Suicide Squad, but I haven't seen that yet because nobody has, but the internet's probably already saying it's shit.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of interesting stuff there to discuss, especially in terms of... I mean, I guess I wonder, would a cyborg really circumvent the issue? The goal is to distribute robots within the United States. So is RoboCop seen as this intermediate step to acclimate the public to robots before distribution, or do they want to make more cyborgs? I don't get this.
Yeah, the plan makes no sense. I think it's just a gotcha. Like, I think it's just Raymond Sellers going, well, if they don't want fully autonomous robots that can think for themselves with no morality, let's be fucking Frankensteinian and do something horrific.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is the best way to justify this is that it is sadistic, that it is sort of facetious, sort of like, oh, so you don't want robots? Okay. What if I gave you this instead? And yeah, it is a Frankenstein monster. It is this abomination. And yeah, that has a lot of great commentary and a lot more it could have said. But
it could have worked if we had, with this jerk-off Murphy RoboCop, if also he didn't have the family thing going on, where it's just like, the whole, but daddy kind of issue. And it's just like,
I also, you know what? If we're making Murphy into an asshole, that, yeah, you start off with him just, you want this guy to have something horrible happen to him, and then you just watch him get broken over this process. He's just just mentally enfeebled and breaks down. Yes, yeah, I'm kind of sadistic, but you know what? It's fiction. I can do what I want. And yeah, I would love this kind of...
If it's going to make a better movie, yes, I don't care.
Yes, a conflict, drama, stakes, a message beyond the literal and the surface level stuff.
Consumerism bad. You should never buy an iPad because bad.
Yeah. But another thing I really would have loved to have explored in any RoboCop film is the legalities, especially Murphy's rights. How is it that a corporation with such a prominent figure like RoboCop, how are they able to sort of wield him as this slave and get away with it? Not that I'm saying that they couldn't do it. I want to know how, because Amazon could absolutely do this tomorrow.
Well, they do cover this in the very first movie. There's a line by Don Johnson where it's the armed discussions, quite specifically. They go, he signed a release form, we can do whatever we want with it. And that's like the morality in a nutshell. They, OCP, do not give a fuck about Alex Murphy. And that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, that's everything about corporations in modern America and everything. I mean, the modern world in general. But
as I stated earlier, this era was the birth of hypercapitalism, and we're still dealing with it today, 40 years on.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, do they ever mention, he's legally dead, so his rights don't really matter? I think something like that comes up.
Well, it does in that scene, like he's technically dead, or like he's signed the release form, he's legally dead, we can do whatever we want. I think it becomes more an issue in the subplot in RoboCop 2 with the Murphy stalking his wife and kids subplot that really doesn't go anywhere, except to say that Murphy's been a bit of a creep.
But this is why I love Legal Eagle on YouTube, because I love knowing how the law plays a part in these stories. And when the world becomes fantastical, you change one thing and suddenly you have to question, well, okay, so in the case of RoboCop, you know, that's major human rights violations, and even if someone dies, you know, if they're resurrected, they have their rights back, right?
I think that's purposeful in a sense, in the case of something like a RoboCop, where it is a huge critique on capitalism and consumerism and it's more of a critique on corporatism in that aspect, where it's just like the corporation does not give a shit about you as a person. They give a shit about control and getting their way and the profit.
I guess technically speaking, if they have enough money, they can make the laws into whatever they want it to be, you know.
That's essentially what they're doing with Delta City.
Yeah, I mean, again, you see this with Amazon and the way they treat their employees. They're not even allowed to take toilet breaks and stuff like that. And it took ages for that to go public. It took ages for anyone to even know about it outside of the company.
And guess what? The whole staff with Corona, let's be pretty honest, this is what happened. A lot of staff got laid off. And what happened? Did Jeff Bezos cycled down production? No, he ramped it up because more demand came in. He just cut people's wages, and because he could, he didn't raise the wages of his employees, he slashed them.
Jesus Christ.
So he cut down staff and slashed wages and expected them to work more. Jeff Bezos is a fucking evil person. Fuck Jeff Bezos.
Although apparently...
Again, I'll get off my soapbox. That Lex Luthor-looking motherfucker.
I mean, he basically is. But one of his ex-wives apparently gave away like $5 billion in this year alone, so that's good.
Yeah, I think she got it as part of the divorce, and I read some of that story, and it's holy shit horrific. How much he treated her, and she got a lot of money off it, but yeah, she's given most of it away, because, she wasn't poor to begin with, and there's an argument that maybe Bezos used a bit of her money and influence to get where he went. Yeah.
Interesting. But back to the minute. In the background behind Sellers, you see a triptych of paintings. So
notice this.
3 images in a series by Francis Bacon. And if you're not aware, he is an Irish painter known for abstract images of isolated figures in turmoil.
And bacon.
So yeah, I was reading an article, and it was about the production design, and it says early on in the creation of the look of RoboCop, director Jose Padilla sent a few images of Bacon's work to whilst. They used it to look at the underlying visual metaphor of the film, and whilst, it's misspelt. Good job, whoever wrote this.
There was I think there was a lot of Brazilian and at least Latino American production staff on this, so it wouldn't surprise me that an article would get the names wrong so many damn times.
In fact, in one scene, Wist made sure that there was a triptych of Bacon paintings behind the character of Raymond Sellers, and RoboCop spends his downtime in a lab where doctors like the one played by Gary Oldman keep an eye on him. The lab, says Wist, is somewhat a 3D version of Bacon's art, where the architecture itself is very, very austere, straight, rectilinear, 90 degrees, as if it emulates Bacon's lines. He creates boxes and perimeters and containment devices in his pictures for the more biomorphic imagery, the sometimes grotesque, tough imagery of the human form. And speaking of, one of his paintings also inspired Alien.
Perfect organism.
Specifically, there's like this weird chicken creature, like a naked chicken, and that was used as inspiration for the chest burster.
Oh, wow. Neat. It all ties together.
Yeah, it's all connected. I mean, the production designer here also said he was looking at the original Alien for inspiration, and yeah, there's a lot of austerity here, but there's something about it's very beige. This movie is very beige.
Yes. It's definitely got a hint of the browns in it. I think that's just because of the, Middle Eastern things, but yet even like Sellers' office and that is like very brown.
And I mean, these 2 of his employees here, dark brown suits. It's all neutral tones. There's nothing. This movie kind of just feels like a waiting room.
Well, we do, and we will continue to do so. We have crapped on this film, but I think the one thing we've not really talked about that much is production design. And to be honest, I think it's a good-looking film.
It is. It just lacks.
We have praised the Middle Eastern stuff for being really interesting. I think the only time I really didn't like the production of this was the Sam Jack's section, because it just felt so garish and overly blown and
already looks dated. But yeah, it's like this movie, this scene here with all the rosy kind of colors, there is something kind of beautiful about it, but it doesn't pop, especially the way when you do the reverse shot. So the shot of Keaton looks great, well lit, colors are beautiful. Then you do the reverse shot, and these two actors are not lit well at all. There is no direct light on them, and it just kind of makes it look flat. There's something missing in this, right?
That could be a deliberate choice.
Yeah.
Thinking about it is because, let's just hypothetically say that Raymond Sellers is our protagonist.
Oh, and he's the focal point on this scene for sure.
Yeah. You want this guy to be shot well. He is the focal character. If he was the lead, you want him to be shot well. You want him to be given the best light, the best angles, the best everything. He is a key character. And it's probably a bit cynical, but I think deliberately cynical, to say, his underlings don't matter.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't know, it's just like, you look at Blade Runner 2049, which, again, it's very austere, lots of, it's very...
I was thinking Blade Runner, 2049 specifically myself.
Liminal spaces, high ceilings, all of that, but there is personality there. There is something unique. There's something... Every shot, every frame of painting, it's memorable. Whereas, for me, I'm really struggling to think back on RoboCop, the remake, and there aren't many set pieces. There aren't many iconic locations or shots. To me, it all kind of passes by as a perfectly competent, mediocre thing.
Yeah, it's just so... average. As much as I give shit to someone like JJ for basically lens flaring the fuck out of a movie, I was trying to shoehorn Star Trek into that, but I'm not paying that one off. But as much as I give shit to someone like that, who I think does make some really mediocre stuff, I can't not say that they aren't visually interesting.
Yes. Oh my god. Yeah. Abrams movies are all gorgeous.
I mean, Rise of the Skywalker is a piece of shit. It's a well-shot piece of shit.
It is like an improv play.
Yeah. I can't hate someone for that, but I can hate them for story-based stuff.
I think how I would have framed this shot. So when we have the shot on Sellers, I would make the camera be a little more of an upshot. Maybe make the field of view a bit wider and really take in the scale and make the people look quite small in that frame. And then, so obviously his underlings don't really matter. You don't want to make them the focal point. But I don't know, the lighting here, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm being fussy. But it's just, there's something missing and I don't know how to articulate it and it's driving me nuts.
Lens flare?
Well, shit.
Oh, of course. Silly.
I'm sorry. No, I know exactly what you mean. It's hard. I think that's the problem with sometimes with mediocre entertainment, is that you just kind of there going, there's something missing. This is, I think, the challenge when it comes to, at least, we're not professional Hollywood critiquers, whatever. We're just a couple of fart asses making a podcast. Let's be brutally honest. We can talk about this stuff. We have mic observations. But at the end of the day, no one's going to be paying attention to us. However, this is what bothers me. It's how can Hollywood professionals, or at least a studio executive, look at this and go, wow, there's something wrong here. There's clearly things not working. I guess at the end of the day, they're just shitting it out for... Well, that's the problem with all remakes. They're just shitting it out for a quick buck.
Yeah, it really is just... They're not looking at the artistry, or they're not really looking closely at these particular frames or how things are lit and all those sort of... It's just more the bottom dollar sort of kind of thing.
Yeah, this is why I really do miss the fact that some franchises, new properties aren't given the look in, because we could get some really interesting stuff. And at the same time, I just keep seeing opportunities wasted. And it's just like, why are you just constantly making such mediocrity?
That's the frustrating thing, and I guess we've talked about it before. It's just, well, you had an opportunity here to do something really interesting. You know, I never think when anyone announces a remake or a reboot, I'm like, oh, well, you could potentially do something really cool there.
But they never do.
But they never do. They just photocopy the first movie and hope it does the exact same thing, and then it never does. And then they try to reboot another thing and photocopy the original, and just
They bank on the stock.
Yeah. But I think this scene is the first time I've actually gone, oh wow, I actually do love elements of this shot. So I really do love the shot of Michael Keaton, and I think what it is, the colors, you know, the golden frames behind him, and there's very biological colors, the pinks and the reds and stuff, and well, the paintings themselves are quite biological. You're seeing these bodies basically being taken apart, and this is very evocative. This is saying something. This is relevant to the themes of the film, and it's the first time I can say that about this. And how many freaking minutes are we in? Nearly 20?
As a comparison to the original movie, like, OCP is very sterile, which I think really works well for like the 80s aesthetic that movie was basically set in. You do have to acknowledge like 20 odd years worth of corporate structure and corporate aesthetics and all that other stuff. Like, if you want to portray an oppressive corporation, you get the cold whites in there, you get the greys, you get the dull colors, you get everyone in the pale blues.
Have you seen Mr. Robot?
Not yet.
Amazing.
I don't have
Holy
a copy of it.
shit, amazing. But yeah, because it's on Foxtel, like, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, pirated. I think Mr. Robot would approve. But yeah.
Oh yeah.
So they do really great things of taking into account where the modern office culture has gone, and so all this open plan stuff with the bean bags and all of that, primarily because of the way it's framed. You know, there's a lot of negative space, a lot of head space. It creates this claustrophobia or this loneliness. There's a lot of shots of ceiling. Someone did a montage of all the ceiling shots of Mr. Robot, and it is brilliant because it's just, even though these offices are all brightly lit and look modern and trendy, you're seeing that this is a hollow, soulless culture, corporate culture, nonetheless.
I'm going to steal a title of a Weird Al album and call it Mandatory Fun.
Mandatory fun, yeah, exactly.
It's like, we have beanbags and other fun things for you to try. You will relax.
It's like being thrown into a what do you call it? A ball pit as an adult. Have fun.
Forget about the pointless meaningless of your existence as we work you to the bone, but you can get a mocha.
Yeah, spicy latte.
And it's holiday season, you get to have that pumpkin spice.
Woo.
Oh, I did. So just quickly going back to the thing, I think that's why I keep on going back to this thing of, I wish that Raymond Sellers was the protagonist, or at least maybe if I think if we know this guy's evil, he's not the RoboCop in a RoboCop movie, but man, play him as a protagonist and then have the heel turn.
Yeah, either deuterotagonist or maybe well, I guess an anti-hero, something like that.
Yeah, you could have just done something with this. As I said, the minor tweaks, because you're almost there.
Yeah, because even in these first 20 minutes or so, the focus really seems to be government versus corporation, which is not something that was a central focus in RoboCop until now. So if that is the central conflict, then you need to pick a side. You need government to fight against corporations or vice versa.
I just realized something that makes this movie even more dumb, is because in real life, there is no conflict between the military-industrial complex and the government, which is something that they actually explored in RoboCop, at least subtly. You know, the fact that these two things are simpatico, they're not at odds.
I guess that's another issue, is that the situation they're presenting is purely hypothetical from our perspective. It's not commenting on anything real. So, the lawyer here, she's like, oh, I've tried, both sides of the divide, lobbying both sides or whatever it was. And, oh, we can't...
I gave $1 million to every single sense and they still won't budge.
Yeah, it's like...
I've done nothing and nothing's worked.
Wow, you must be really bad at your job, because I bet I could do that, because that's how things work now.
Oh god, senators are notorious for being paid off by rich people.
Yep.
The fuck?
So the fundamental, well, I don't even know if we are calling it the fundamental conflict here, because this movie cannot choose.
There has one?
He can't choose. It starts off with one, and they go, oh no, I want a different one. Oh no, I want a different one. But yeah,
we start off with hypermilitarization in the Middle East, which is a very prescient issue, then completely ignores it.
And then, oh, well, the politicians are intervening with the progress of technology and intervening with corporations.
Oh my god, this is the Ayn Rand RoboCop 2.
Oh my god, it is.
We keep dropping it. This movie is literally that.
Yeah. Well, just the more we get into it, the more obvious it becomes. And then, Alex Murphy in this remake almost seems redundant within the story. He is. He's a background instrument, and maybe that could have been intentional. That would have been really interesting, actually. Okay, so you make Sellers the main character, and Murphy's just sort of a tool. He is a puppet through this.
Well, we knew that.
Thing. Well, yeah, but more so now than ever, because RoboCop was always the main character of RoboCop. What if he wasn't?
Yes.
What if...
Yes!
It is about this sadistic CEO just fucking with society.
Yeah! It could have actually then been more cathartic when he gets shot in the dick at the end.
Yeah.
God, I keep forgetting that literally the heel turn of Raymond Sellers happens like the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Oh my god, I can't wait to get to the third act, because it is a shit show. It is just like, oh god, end the movie.
Fuck. Oh, Jesus. I think we've waffled on a little bit too long.
Yeah, I felt like we're getting to the end of this. Yeah, I've said it. Yeah. I said more than I expected to. I discovered things that I didn't think I would.
I just felt my blood pressure rising a little bit, just like thinking of I want to keep talking about how shit this movie is, but no, we've still got 70 more episodes to bag this crap out.
Woo!
And I hope you go safe for the long haul. 70 odd more minutes of me just spewing bile at why this movie could have been great and failed spectacularly.
It's fun because I always love thinking about things that don't work. The movies, the TV shows, the games that had a good premise, that had potential, and then it just falls so short of the mark. And I think those tend to stay with me a lot longer. I think I mentioned before, doing Prometheus by Minute was just so rewarding because, oh wow, okay, this is really good stuff. Oh, I'm so engaged. Why the fuck are they? Oh, they're poking the snake. Okay.
No, I think your experience with Prometheus by Minute is the perfect encapsulation of that movie. Like, its highs, its lows, its sheer what the fuck. Mm-hmm. And
oh wow, what a roller coaster that podcast was. Yeah, RSVP Prometheus by Minute.
Yep, RSVP Prometheus by Minute. Go check that out. So where else can we find all your lovely offerings?
Oh, I love a good segue. So you want to head over to traviandesigns.com, Travian, or Alien Prequels by Minute on Facebook. Also, look at the podcast Chronologically Speaking, because soon... listen to the podcast anyway. That is the Movies by Minute for Tron. But pretty soon, there will be Animatronic, which is myself and Duncan Shields reviewing Tron Uprising.
Yeah, I have to finally get around to watching that so I can figure out what the fuck actually happened in Legacy. No, I know what happened in Legacy.
Not as good as I remembered. It's falling apart in my hands, guys.
Just like I was going to call it the fucking Matrix. Just like the grid in, oh god, Flynn! Jesus! How can I remember this guy's names? That's how much Legacy left an imprint in my head.
Yep.
Speaking of imprints in your head, that was a terrible segue.
Big oof.
Speaking of terrible segues, go check out Fandom Crossing, where you can find Kung Pao Enter the Minute, vlogs, reviews, essays. I'm hoping to do a few more of them in the next year. We've just kicked off one of the shittiest years in recent history, so go like, share, subscribe to all our shit. We have Patrons, we have things, we have YouTubes. Just do it. Just go spread the word of how much we love one movie and how much we hate another one. I'm done.
Robocock.
Thank you.